Hey guys, JohnRibs here, coming at you with another daily Slay the Spire video. I'm going to do something different today. I hit 400 subs on Twitch earlier today, and I wanted to do something special, and a lot of people have asked for an over-explained Slay the Spire run. So like, just playing Slay the Spire and talking at the level of detail that I do for daily discussions while I do so. So I thought I'd record one of those for you guys. I don't think I'll make it all the way through 3 acts, but I was gonna aim to do Act 1 now, and then if it's interesting, maybe I'll continue it. I'll have to work out how to like reload the save file or something. Anyway, we're just playing an Ascension 15 Silent here. I think Silent's quite a bit more interesting than Ironclad right now, and I basically only play on Ascension 15. The first thing you have to do at the beginning of every run is you have 2 pieces of information that you don't know yet, which you have to find out. And you can do this in either order, but you have to find out what the map looks like. So you have to scroll through the entire map and see what's going on. Really important pieces of information here are who is the final boss. We're fighting Hexaghost. Hexaghost means a few things. 1, it's okay to be at low health at the start of the fight, because his first attack scales based on your initial health. 2, we do need to have some good damage in the deck. Something like a Noxious Fumes or a Bouncing Flask for poison damage to kill him perhaps, or some sort of strength scaling maybe to kill him with attacks. Something like that is mandatory to get Hexaghost dead before our deck is cluttered with burns and we die. I think those are the only 2 really big important things about Hexaghost. In the second half of the act, it's really nice to pick up elite fights. I love getting elite fights. Anytime that I can get an elite fight, I want to get it. And the end of the act is great because elite fights don't get more difficult as the act goes on. The elites stay just as difficult as they were on like the 6th floor, but your deck's getting stronger and more capable of killing them. So in the back half of the act, I'm looking for good sequences of elites that I might be able to hit. So this one here with 2 elites and then a campfire could be really solid. We've also got like campfire elite into store and stuff like that. That's cool too. At the same time, I think hallway fights go down a lot in value as the act goes on because hallway fights get tougher and the rewards don't really meaningfully go up. So getting elites in the second half of the act is really nice. Also having flexibility in your route is nice, so I probably won't be going through this because I'm just sort of forced into 3 elites. And yeah, we could very easily die. I don't know, we might. We could do it. Elite, 3 elites. Yeah, it's gonna be rough. Is there a way to deviate there? No, we're just 100% all in. Okay, so like this left side route is the one that you'd want to be able to take if your deck were strong. So if we got a big bonus from the whale, for example, if we were able to like trade our relic for a 4 energy relic or something like that, we could think about doing the left path and taking 4 elites. But probably it's too lethal for us unless we get something strong going, so it's more reasonable to look at this right side. You want enough campfires to basically keep you alive through Act 1 and enough elites to get you good relics and strong cards for Act 2. That's my general idea. I'd rather have events later on in the act. I'd rather have fights earlier on in the act. The 4th floor is the first time that you start running into difficult fights. So if you can get 3 fights on 1, 2, 3 floors, those first 3 fights are very unlikely to deal a lot of damage to you. The only thing that's maybe menacing is Jawworm. And then on the 4th and 5th floors, you might want like an event or a campfire, ideally, maybe hit a store early. And then you're starting to look for elites already. So I think I like this path. We did campfire to upgrade neutralize, or if we get another card that's better as an upgrade than neutralize, that would be great. And then an elite. Move on up, and we have a campfire elite, and we get a store at the end of the act. So if we haven't found a scaling source of damage yet, we'll have enough gold at this point to have some sort of relic purchase being out, or we get to see a bunch of different cards at that store as well, or maybe we could even buy a couple of strength potions to get us through Hexaghost. So that path seems best to me. We could go left again if we get a whale option, which makes us very, very strong. And our whale options, you can look at the whale options first or second, it doesn't really matter. You need to get all this information, obviously. Our +6 max HP, which I think is quite valuable. I value max HP highly on Silent and on Ironclad. I think it's great. Obtaining a random rare card, I think, is quite poor. There are just a lot of Silent rares which are not good at this stage in the game. So generally, if I was going to take a high variance option, I'd rather just take a random boss relic, which is always available. And then losing all gold to transform 2 cards is another option, which I think is okay. It's made better by the fact that we are not planning to go to a store early in the act right now. It's made worse, though, by the fact that we may need a relic purchase here to beat Hexaghost. And, I mean, that's sort of a small thing, honestly. Silent gets more strength out of relics, in my experience, than out of cards. So, like, when we transform into 2 random cards, it's not that likely that we're going to, like, win the run with 2 immensely strong cards there. There just aren't that many cards which are insanely strong. So, I think it's either the 2 transform or the boss relic. I think that this is pretty close. I'm probably going to go for the 2 transform because I think it ends up being good more often, and because of those elites that are potentially... No, I'm gonna go for a random boss relic. Okay, so we got Orrery. That's interesting. We get to choose 5 cards. It's gonna be a long time before I actually start fighting stuff. What we're looking for at the start of the game in a Silent deck is just more damage. Our Silent deck does not do very much damage early on, and getting more damage into it lets us do fun things. So a backstab or a dagger spray would be ideal out of that pick. Dagger spray here. Another backstab. Wow. Leg sweep, skewer, deadly poison. These are all strong cards. And maybe a flying knee there. I think we go double backstab and take the 4 elite path that I was talking about. I think that's strong enough to go after 4 elites. So double backstab, a dagger spray. I think we do need a leg sweep. Our deck's getting a little bit too damage heavy right now. And we can go either way on flying knee, in my opinion. Yeah, I think it's fine. Alright, so we have double backstab, which means we're going to absolutely make mincemeat of opening fights. It's a very strong early turn. We also don't get our 7-card starting hand, though, because we've traded away our Silent starting relic. So, there was nothing to say at all about that fight, obviously. We just killed that guy straight away. Heel Hook, Riddle with Holes, and Piercing Whale. Riddle with Holes is a lot of damage, but it's also very inflexible and brings nothing else to the deck. Heel Hook, we just cannot support this card at all. We have 2 sources of weak in the deck. Neutralize fades away straight away, though. Piercing Whale is an interesting card here. It's very, very strong against Hexaghost and very, very strong in Act 2, but we're not there yet. And if we're planning to fight 4 elites, the fact that Piercing Whale is not immensely good in the Gremlin Knob fight, and it's also pretty bad right now against the Tri-Sentries because we have no poison. Like, they're going to have artifact charges, and Piercing Whale is just going to hit those. It means that it's not that great a pick. I think our deck is a little bit attack heavy. We added a lot of attacks to it. And Piercing Whale's okay against Lagavulin. It's not great, but it's okay. So we'll grab it. Another fight. Okay, we weren't quite able to kill the guy who was weakening us. That was the idea, but our deck's just immensely strong right now. So footwork, deadly poison, and accuracy. Deadly poison theoretically kills Hexaghost for us. Theoretically kills Hexaghost for us. It's too large a deck for it though, right? We just don't cycle it often enough. I don't think we quite need to start taking bad cards or worse cards to kill Hexaghost yet. Footwork is a very good card right now. It's good against Tri-Sentries and Lagavulin in particular. It's okay against Gremlin Knob. And in general, throughout the entire run, it's very strong. So we can just grab a Footwork. It's a sec. Alright, sorry about that. So, another easy fight with double Backstab. Backstab's an interesting card. Sometimes if you grab a lot of Backstabs, you start to sort of tunnel down. You go down a path where you have to kill everything on turn 1 because you're just like, you've got the 2 Backstabs and you're like, well, a Glass Knife would help with this. Dagger Throw could help me kill everything on turn 1 too, and you end up struggling to actually block, and you can be sort of reliant on your relics bailing you out. This is a pick between Dash and Noxious Fumes. Dash is a far superior card for fighting elites, and we plan to fight 4 of them. Noxious Fumes is a far superior card for killing Hexaghost. I think we'll just take the Dash though, with 4 elites that we're about to battle. So with 146 gold, I failed completely to say that, and no store coming up for the rest of the act, I think getting some sort of purchasing in right now just makes a ton of sense. We want to make sure that we're strong. Getting a potion to help fight elites would be incredible. Getting a card removal would be very nice. We actually have another dash if we want. I think that might be too much, though. Stores are very difficult because you have so many different options. And here, the 2 that really stand out are buying another Dash. Dash is an incredibly strong card against elites because against Gremlin Knob, it doesn't give him strength. Gremlin Knob punishes you for playing skills, so you can't really block against them, but Dash isn't a skill and gains you 10 blocks, so it's immensely useful there. Against Lagavulin, makes your block and damage scale down with his debuff, but Dash starts with such large numbers that going from 10 to 9 isn't that significant a thing. And then against the Tri-Sentinels, you start to clutter your deck with dazes, and so you don't draw as many playable cards every turn, which means that drawing a 2-cost card is really nice. Often you'll only draw 2 cards that are actually playable and then 3 dazes in a hand, and so the fact that it costs 2 is not even a drawback at that point. So we have either dash or card remove. Tiebreaker here for me is that the larger your deck is, the less relevant the cards are and the more relevant the relics are. So I think card remove just doesn't really do quite as much as ensuring that we can fight these elites. And I'm going to go for dash and for regen pot. Regen pot helps us avoid resting. Maybe we can get some of these cards actually upgraded, which would be nice. I think I was meant to kill the spike slime, not the fungus. Whoops. Well, we're committed now, but it's fairly likely that I make... Yeah, it's fairly likely I take damage from that mistake. I sort of default to attacking the guy with lower HP sometimes, but the fungus vulnerables you. And we didn't have to block that turn because we had dash, so it didn't really matter that it was attacking. A couple of reasons that was wrong. Okay, footwork. This deck is ridiculous, guys. Footwork is a very, very, very strong power. You can bloat your deck with powers to a point where you're just like drawing powers instead of cards which actually do something, and that can be really detrimental. But in this deck, we already have 22 coming up on 23 cards, and there are some ways in which having a larger deck is a strength. One of them is that you can have more powers in your deck without cluttering your opening turns. And so by the time you get through your deck the first time on like turn 4 or 5 in a boss fight, you're really, really strong. You have multiple copies of Footwork or something in play. But on turn 1 and 2, you're not drawing so many Footworks that you're unable to like kill stuff in a hallway fight, something like that. So a second Footwork here is fine. I would caution against taking a second Footwork this early if we didn't have such a large deck going on, but we have tons of cards, so it's fine. Note that Dash is an attack which scales off Footwork. So Footwork goes up in value the more cards you have that say block on them, and the fact that dashes say block on them is pretty nice. Although, you know, Footwork's more valuable on a 0 or 1 cost card than it is on a 2 cost card for sure. Alright, let's regen pot. This is a turn where Footwork is not super great. Bag of Preparation will make this deck so much better if we can find it. Unfortunately, he's going to vulnerable us here. The scariest line for Gremlin to take is when he vulnerables you and then makes 2 large attacks. So he just vulnerabled us, now he's making a big attack. With double Footwork, we can play a defend. I think it's even better than... I have a neutralized dash leg sweep. Whew, we don't have to play a defend here. So the issue going on is that Gremlin Knob has this ability which he gives himself on turn 1 in Rage. Whenever he plays a skill, whenever we play a skill, he gains 2 strength. And it might not seem like 2 strength is that big a deal when we're getting 9 block out of it, but we are vulnerable, so we take 50% more damage from attacks, which means that his attack is going up by 3 when we play this. So we're only gaining 6 life effectively, and the next turn we'll be vulnerable again, and he may very well attack us again, and he'll be attacking us for 3 more, so the value of the defense starts to go down. On the other hand, we could just deal 20 damage right now. That could let us leg sweep strike perhaps next turn, and then kill him the turn after. It's a tough decision, which ultimately is going to be, you know, plus or minus 3 hit points, probably. So I'm going to go with the... I think this is the safer play, basically. He did go vulnerable slap slap, but we drew another dash. This turn, we definitely will play Survivor. We're no longer vulnerable, so his strength isn't as relevant anymore. This Gremlin Nub is very angry. Vulnerable slap slap vulnerable is like the worst thing you can possibly see. But we got him dead. So if you're taking on a lot of elites in Act 1, the variance on which relics you get can be a very large, impactful thing on whether you're unsuccessful or not. Setting yourself up to be able to use as many relics as possible is very nice. So that's one of the reasons, for example, that Cloak and Dagger is a very good card. There are 9 relics that it scales immensely successfully with, and that means like 1 in 7 relics is great for Cloak and Dagger, and it's a pretty good card on its own. Whereas Dash is a quite good card on its own, but doesn't scale particularly well with any relics. In this case, Bottle Tornado lets us bottle a power. We got an Adrenaline too. We'll definitely take an Adrenaline. This is just... I don't feel like I need to explain why this card is better than other cards. Gaining an energy. And energy is worth far more than something like 3 block. You'll almost always be able to get far more out of it than that. And drawing 2 cards, just very, very strong. The problem with bottling a Footwork is that we don't do anything on turn 1 if we bottle a Footwork, and we sort of can't make block. Footwork doesn't really make block for us, so we might not pick this up. I think I will pick it up and I'll upgrade it. Yeah, I don't know. That's not a great relic for us. It's not really the one that we wanted. It's weird. I picked up the first Footwork, but it is the second one. It got bottled or whatever. You guys see that? Do you know what I'm talking about? I feel like a crazy person. There are a few upgrades we could consider here. The innate cards, especially in a larger deck, your innate cards are the ones that matter the most by far. A lot of fights we're never even getting to see all of the cards in our deck. So if something's innate, the fact that we draw it every time just you know, matters a lot. It's also why relics matter a lot, because a lot of the time you don't see all of the cards in your deck, and so the cards in your deck are irrelevant, but your relics affect every single fight. So yeah, upgrades on footwork and backstab are going to be the most obvious things to do here. In general, upgrading for more weak is very important. You want to have weak up at all times, and currently we only have 3 weak in a deck of 24 cards, so we're only getting weak on enemies about 60% of the time. Hopefully we can make up for that just by having large numbers. Like with a footwork plus in play on turn 1, our block makes 50% more block, which is actually considerably more mitigation than weakening something would reduce their attacks by. Yeah, so like upgrading weak is generally very strong. Upgrading dash is actually quite nice. You're usually playing this card and you get 6 output out of it, 3 block and 3 damage. Although dash does overkill a decent amount, so sometimes the extra damage or block doesn't matter very much. Like if you're blocking for more than you need or damaging for more than you need, it doesn't really count anymore. Leg sweep's a very high priority upgrade. Neutralize is just an incredible upgrade. Dagger spray is a very good upgrade. It gets you 4 extra damage, and that's AoE, so that can be a lot. But I think footwork, right now, it's innate. And yeah, just seems like the thing to do. We have 2 different things we can do against Lagavulin. We can just play footwork, backstab, backstab, strike, neutralize here, and get the fight going. Or we can wait and try to look for the second footwork, get that in play before we fight. I don't see a good reason to give up the double backstab turn, honestly. Well, let's see. Actually, backstab seems like a really good card in our deck throughout the fight, so... Because we have 3 2 costs, right? So we're regularly going to draw hands where we can't play every card, so just drawing backstab in that hand is going to be fine. We have 4 energy this turn. This is the last turn before Lagavulin wakes up. You can spend 3 turns setting up, and then you gotta go, so we might as well attack. We did get both of our footworks in play before the start of the fighting. Footwork's a very powerful card in the Lagavulin fight. Generally speaking, we want to be mostly prioritizing block in the turns where he's attacking. Lagavulin's pattern is attack, attack, debuff you. And in Lagavulin fights, it pays to work out whether you're killing him on turn 4 or turn 7, and there aren't really other turns where it makes sense to kill him. And this deck can't kill him on turn 4. We don't have anywhere near enough damage. So we're probably going to be defending a lot. The reason is that on turn 3, he won't be attacking us at all, and on turn 4, he'll have an attack incoming, but we get to attack him before the attack comes. So on turn 3, we don't have to block at all. If we're killing him on turn 4, we don't have to block either. But if we're not killing him on turn 4, we do have to block. And so it's very valuable to get to kill him on turn 4. And the same goes for turn 6 and 7 down the line. We can either leg sweep or defend. I guess leg sweep is just strictly better. Playing Adrenaline makes sense here. Double dash. Our deck's funny. Ideally, I'd like to have him down to about 60 health right now. We got him close-ish. The fight's going to be better as it goes late because of how many dashes we have and how many footworks we have. So on this turn, for example, like we could prioritize only attacks, but we can definitely get away with blocking and still expect to be able to kill him on turn 7. Is that the one I said it was? So 2 more turns after this. Also, like our deck's so good at blocking that we could just kill him like later than that too. If we play dash on the vital turns or whatever, it's gonna be fine. But yeah, the goal is to kill him next turn, and if not, we'll just dash and probably be fine, or block and probably be fine. So leg sweep works fine. Leg sweep's really good against Lagavulin. Oh, I had extra energy from Flying Knee, which I didn't use. And then Dash will finish the fight. And we got a Bag of Preparation, which is incredible. Incredible in our deck with double Backstab. And a Bottled Footwork. Cards here are Slice, Burst, Finisher. I don't believe we have any skill here to burst, really. The strongest option we have right now is Leg Sweep, and we're just not going to draw Burst and Leg Sweep together very often. We'll draw Burst and Dash together a lot and be very frustrated by the fact that Dash is an attack. So I think, in general, Burst does not make sense in this deck with what we're doing. Burst is a very powerful card, which I would be taking if I had, like, well-laid plans and Malaise in my deck, perhaps, or something like that. Right now, though, it just doesn't do anything. Slice would make a lot of sense with so many 2-energy cards. I think that Slice is a card that we could add, and that would sort of make it a little bit more reasonable for us to beat Act 2 if we don't get an energy relic at the end of Act 1. How much of a concern that is for you is really interesting. Recently, 2 non-energy boss relics have been taken out of the boss relic pool, so you're now more likely to see an energy relic. And this deck can currently play Snecko Eye, although we're not super excited about it because our 2 backstabs on turn 1 get randomized costs. But Leg Sweep, Dash, these cards are very good with Snecko Eye. Footwork's fine with Snecko Eye. Adrenaline's okay with Snecko Eye. In general, we could take Snecko Eye, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we have to, but we could. So, yeah, Slice is like... it's iffy. I really like Finisher. I don't think we have great support for it currently. In fact, I think we have terrible support for it currently. Our deck's going to have to work out what it actually does that's strong at some point, because... like, if we can't take Burst, that's one strong thing that we're not currently doing. If we can't take Finisher, that's another strong thing that we're not currently doing. I don't think it's worth putting Finisher in the deck. It's so bad if we get 3 energy through Act 2 and interacts so poorly with stuff like Dash. So I guess the only card that I am thinking about here in this particular situation is Slice. It's fine in the elite fights. It's okay against Hexaghost. It's very good against Act 2, even if we don't get a 4th energy. So yeah, I think we're fine to take it. We have a Frozen Egg. Whenever we add a power to our deck, it's upgraded. That's really nice, especially in a deck with a large number of cards, because we can fit more powers into the deck without it feeling too bloated. And we're fighting Gremlin Knob again. Unfortunately, we drew out Dash on turn 1, so we won't have that available in the rest of the fight. We can consider a Strength Potion here. The question is if we have enough damage to beat Hexaghost without the Strength Potion. I would be pretty uncomfortable with the Hexaghost fight right now without Strength Potion. And I think, like, our upgrades don't matter very much, so... we can always rest if stuff goes very poorly for us. And this fight's either Lagavulin or Tri-Sentry, which are both much easier for us than Gremlin Knob, so... I think we can get away without using a Strength Potion, and... we go Backstab, Backstab... either Dash or Footwork. I think Dash must be better. I wouldn't be surprised if we took 25 damage from this fight, even. I'm hoping we don't, but it wouldn't surprise me that much. Leg Sweep's a very nice card to draw. Sort of on par with Dash there. Adrenaline is iffy because it gives him 2 strength, but I'm not going to not play it. This fight, he didn't vulnerable us, and you can see the difference. We got weak on him as well, so the strength scaling that he's doing isn't as relevant. This turn, he's trying to vulnerable us, but he's dead. So we took almost no damage in that fight. And grab a Mango and a Swift Potion. Mango is a perfectly fine relic. It's not just the max HP, it also heals you for 14 on pickup. So it's really nice to get in the middle of an act. It can often prevent you from needing to rest. And then every time that you do rest, you get a proportion of your hit points back, your max hit points back. So Mango's going to cause us to get 4 or 5 more hit points every time we rest. And then at the end of the act, when you kill the act boss, you get 75% of your missing HP back. And so Mango is going to cause us to get an extra math 11, 10 or 11 HP at the end of the act. So over the course of an entire run, this is probably somewhere in the vicinity of, 30, 40 hit points. Oh, that wasn't even counting the 14 it gives right now. It's probably like 45 or 50 hit points over the course of a run, which is really nice. Think about that as like, sometimes I think about it as a free impervious in fights which are difficult. Impervious is a really good card, and having max HP lets you play Impervious for free sometimes, because your HP is effectively just block that you don't have to pay for. As long as you have more than 1 HP, it's free. You just free block. Sort of a silly way to think about it, but hey, it works. I think Dagger Throw is a great card to have in a big, messy deck like ours. We're often going to have hands where the card selection's nice. On the other hand, it does slow us down getting through the deck. We have to play it to draw a card to replace itself. We could just skip. I don't think Catalyst is the thing we're doing. Obviously, we have no poison at all. And Poison Stab has no interest in me at all. So I think just skip. It's fine. Remove a card, transform a card, upgrade a card. So we could upgrade Backflip. We could remove Strike as well. Defend's a pretty good card in this deck because we have a Bottled Footwork. But Strike is not a very good card in this deck right now. Just a question of whether 4 extra damage on turn 1 of every fight is more relevant than having to draw a strike over and over again. One thing to think about when taking strikes out of your deck is that there is an event in Act 2 which replaces the strikes with bites, and it's a pretty good event to take, so you're just wasting a card remove if you take a strike out and then end up taking an event which gives you 5 bites in place of all of your strikes. I think I've talked myself into just taking Backstab. Backstab's not going to be great against Hexaghost, but it will be great in Act 2 to have an upgraded Backstab. I think this hand has so much damage that we just start fighting Lagavulin again. The Tri-Sentries is fairly easily the easiest elite fight, so it's too bad that we never got that one. We did play Slice for 5 damage there, but it wasn't very impressive, I wouldn't say. You get to see the immense power of cards like Dash early in the game, though, for sure. Okay. In the last fight, we had him at like 63 right now, and this time we have him at 33. A large amount of that is the relics that we've picked up. We had a bag of preparation this time around, so we started with 2 additional cards to get a bunch of damage in early, and then the upgrade on Backstab helped with another 4 damage, I guess. Some of it is also that we just drew better this time around. Dash is so good in this fight. Okay, so we kill him either next turn or the turn after. Either way, he's not going to get to attack us again. Important to note, you can check what cards are in your draw pile all the time, and as you're starting to get down to only like 4 cards left in your draw pile, it's a really big deal. Like, you should be checking and making sure that you know what you're about to draw. It matters that we're going to draw 3 strikes and a survivor. Okay, we got a bird face turn, so we have a deck with 2 relics, which really reward us for picking up powers. We also have a lot of cards in our deck, so powers, I've made this point multiple times now, powers bloat us less harmfully, and the awakened one has been nerfed, so the awakened one only scales 1 strength per power you play instead of 2, so a deck built around powers can actually beat the awakened one now, very consistently. So we're very happy to put powers in our deck, unless they're accuracy, which is terrible. We have 0 Shiv cards in our deck, so accuracy is not very good here. The pick becomes between Predator and all-out attack. I'm really tempted by Predator here because I think... Okay, there are 2 reasons. One is that Predator is a card which is sort of like a quintessential big number strong card which doesn't scale that well with relics. And Silent can definitely beat Ascension 15 if it gets enough big number cards. And we've currently got 4 of them. If we take Predator, we have 2 dashes and a leg sweep. Footwork is sort of a big number card as well, actually. So there's that to consider. Our relics don't really synergize super strongly with any strategy for winning right now. We have strong relics for sure. I'm very happy with them, but they don't give us a clear path to victory. And so just adding a Predator to our deck that just deals 15 damage and draws us 2 cards, it's pretty strong. It doesn't scale very well with relics, but we don't have relics that scale well with it anyway. The other thing is that Snecko is a very real consideration right now, and Predator is a very, very good card with Snecko. So, yeah, the other option is All-Out Attack, another AoE card. We currently have 1.5. We have a Dagger Spray to deal a little bit of AoE, and Piercing Wail is like, I mean, it's bad AoE. It works really well as AoE in a lot of fights, actually. Like, usually when you talk about area of effect, you're talking about damage. But in a lot of AoE fights, you just need to mitigate until you've killed 1 or 2 of the enemies, and from there you're fine. And Piercing Wail is just incredible at doing exactly that. Problem is there are AoE fights which are truly just about damage. So, yeah, All-Out Attack would be additional AoE. I don't think the discard a random card on it matters very much in this deck at all. I'd just rather have Predator. I think that the backstabs get us through the fights, which are like DPS race. Yeah, DPS race AoE things. I mean, obviously backstab's not AoE, but it's also, we're dealing an extra 30 damage on turn 1 right now. This is a very footwork, doesn't block opening turn. This is why I was talking about us benefiting a lot from Bag of Preparation if we could pick it up. Because you do want some card that says block on it in your starting hand. Anyway, we got through that fight okay. I don't think it was worth it to use a potion there at all. Our health is not a major concern right now. We've got to pick between Dash, Cloak and Dagger, and Deflect. Deflect goes up in value as we get more footworks, so that's pretty nice right now, and as we get more card draw, and I took Predator, right? So I do have a little bit of card draw, as well as the Bag of Preparation. The Adrenaline, Deflect's a pretty good card in our deck right now. Cloak and Dagger is also pretty good. We have a Strength Pot to fight Hexaghost with right now. And Cloak and Dagger interacts pretty well with the Strength Pot. I think I would upgrade Cloak and Dagger if I took it. We're also going to be fighting Act 2 Elites. Like, yeah, we're going to fight Act 2 Elites unless something really weird happens. Because we have immense numbers right now, but no scaling guarantee of victory. So Act 2 Elites will be very easy for us to kill. And we have a lot of max HP. And Cloak and Dagger interacts very nicely with like the 9 or 10 relics that are very good with shivs. We already have 5 relics which aren't those, so we're running out of ones. We're running out of ones that aren't. I think a 3rd dash is overkill. Dash just doesn't do incredibly super late in the game unless we get more energy or Snecko, and I don't want to bank 100% on that right now. So either Cloak and Dagger or Deflect. I'm actually going to take Deflect. I think Deflect lets us win with 3 energy. And the upgrade is going to be Neutralize? For a little bit more weak, maybe? Relevant upgrades here are Dagger Spray for more AoE damage, Predator for more single target damage, Footwork for more dexterity, and Neutralize for more weak. And I don't think there's anything else that's really entering into the equation, so it's just a matter of which ones we care about most. I don't think our deck actually cares that much about weak for Act 2 elites or hallway fights. It does. Some of those enemies get up to like 100 HP. It's going to take us a while to kill them. Strength pot. We'll definitely use the strength pot against Hexaghost. Yeah, okay. And the reason that Footwork is the upgrade over Leg Sweep there is that we play it more consistently, and that if we draw Neutralize on turn 1 in this fight, it turns off Hexaghost's big attack. So getting 2 weak on a card lets us turn off Hexaghost's big attack from turn 1, because the weak will last until turn 2. But having a 3-1 weak split, where Leg Sweep gives 3 weak and Neutralize gives 1, doesn't let us do that. At least not with a Neutralize draw. I'm going to Swift Potion here. Look for a weak. Thank you. I don't see a reason to prevent myself from taking all the damage, but the weak is very valuable for mitigation. This fight could go somewhat long. We're well defended against burns in this deck, just because our deck is so large. Another advantage of playing a deck with lots of cards in it. We don't have a ton of damage, though. The strength pot's gonna have to do some work. Really nice turn for deflect. Yeah, I think Cloak and Dagger Deflect is close there. Deflect's a better card right now. Cloak and Dagger is more about, do we need particular relics to survive Act 3? Because I think, or maybe against the champ at the end of Act 2. Alright, so we're just trying to block and deal damage here. There's nothing very exciting going on. I'm blocking for as much as he's attacking me for every turn and dealing damage with whatever is left. This is non-ideal. I'm really glad that we have Neutralize in this hand at least. This is his second big attack. And we're going to want to kill him pretty soon after this. Ideally, you'd kill him before his second big attack, but our deck just doesn't have any sort of like ramping damage in it. He puts 3 upgraded burns in our discard pile and upgrades the burns that are already in our deck. So they're now dealing a lot of damage to us when drawn. Fortunately, we have another 2.5 turns before we start drawing the stuff that's in our discard pile right now. Makes it a little bit less of a concern. I would really like to not die to you, Hexaghost. Alright, we have dash next turn again. And we have an exploding pot if I'm feeling terrified, but I don't think we need to use it. Oh, actually we can't kill him with exploding pot here anyway. Okay. 10 times 2 doesn't do it because your shield is gone, Hexaghost. Alright, so we made it through Act 1. So to recap what happened there, just go over the main important things that happened in my opinion as a review of the act. We saw that it was Hexaghost, and so we knew that we wanted our deck to be somewhat strong at dealing damage, and we knew that it didn't matter that much how much health we had going to the fight. We ended up having a lot of health going to the fight. That's just because we didn't take much damage throughout the act. We didn't rest in this act at all, right? And we looked at the act and saw that there was this one path with 4 elites, which could make us incredibly strong if we were able to beat it. And we also saw that there was a very safe path with, you know, flexibility even to do whatever we wanted as the act went on. I think that this path with, like, the store before Hexaghost, like, it's about as safe a path as you can imagine. You get a campfire before your first elite, so you're pretty much safe there. And then you have another campfire. You don't even have to take this elite if you don't want to, although I think taking a hallway fight over an elite there is, like, crazy. If you're doing that, I think something's going very wrong with your run. And you have a store before the Hexaghost even, where you can, if you desperately need help against Hexaghost, buy, like, a strength pot or whatever, some source of damage to kill him. So because there were these two paths, which both seemed alluring, at the whale, a high variance option was more appealing because the upside was so much bigger upside, and the downside wasn't that, like, it wasn't going to instantly kill our run. I mean, Arari is not probably one of the best boss relics you can random into, honestly, but it was good enough. And we were able to get very strong at killing these Act 1 elites, got a lot of relics, and that was that. I think the only other points were in the store. We prioritized getting a store early to get our gold invested into something that would help us. And in the upgrades, we maybe made some sort of unusual upgrades where we were upgrading backstabs and this one footwork over sort of more traditional upgrades. We didn't get our neutralize upgraded until right before Hexaghost. Neutralize is often the first upgrade for Silent. And that's just because the deck was so large because of Arari expanding how many cards were in it. And as such, these are the cards that matter. These are the ones that we actually draw on turn one, and so we wanted those ones to be strong. Yeah. Let's take a look at what cards we're picking between. We just talked about how Burst doesn't work very well in this deck. Alchemize is actually interesting to me here. I don't usually love Alchemize, but I think in a deck that is this good at hallway fights, and this deck's really good at hallway fights, Alchemize isn't that bad? I mean, I'd take it over skipping, I'm pretty sure. Ultimately, though, Glass Knife just dealing 16 damage for 1 energy with potential to scale with all sorts of other things. In a deck that already has double backstab in it, I think Glass Knife is going to be the pick, and we're going to be pretty happy about that. Glass Knife is a great upgrade. It goes, you get another 8 single target damage out of the Glass Knife upgrade, which would, I mean, I think that's the best single target damage upgrade you get in the entire game, pretty much. Skewer maybe is arguably better. Maybe there are other ones that are better. But yeah, Glass Knife's a great upgrade, and maybe a prioritized upgrade in Act 2. Glass Knife also helps if we get on 3 energy. Having this much damage front-loaded just helps us with hallway fights in Act 2. And our boss relics are going to make things interesting, as we have Eternal Feather, Astrolabe, and Calling Bell. So we're not getting a 4th energy here at all. That's crazy, because we randomed a boss relic too, so we already took Ari out of the pool. I'd have to look at the math on this, but I think it's really, really low. The chance of us not getting some form of energy. Oof, I'm glad I took the deflect and the Glass Knife. So, the picks here are Eternal Feather gives us some sustain. Sustain has some value. I think we've already sort of got it covered with Mango and Birdface Turn, and the fact that upgrades are not that valuable to a deck of this size. We're not that upset about resting at campfires here. Calling Bell obtained 3 curses and 3 relics. There are a lot of relics which would do good things in our deck, and the larger the deck is, the less significant the curses we're getting are. Yeah, I mean, Calling Bell I don't think is that bad here, but we have very little to synergize with it at the moment. Would have to get relics that worked with it off the Calling Bell. Like, get a Duvu Doll off Calling Bell, and it's a great pick, but we cannot guarantee that that happens at all. Astrolabe is just a generally strong relic. We do have a lot of strikes in the deck, which are very bad right now. It transforms them into other upgraded cards. Now, we won't draw those cards as often with 28 cards in the deck, but it's really hard to transform into something that's worse than strike. And if we transform into powers they're particularly great because of the deck's size and because we have a bird face turn. So I think there are lots of reasons, like Astrolabe. Powers are also pretty good on 3 energy because we get them down and then they give us more output on subsequent turns. So if you get enough powers, you can sort of breach the gap between 3 and 4 energy, sort of. Usually I wouldn't be so gung-ho about taking strikes out of the deck in particular, but we've added a lot of cards which deal damage, a couple of dashes, a predator, a slice, we have 2 backstabs, and our defends are really good with a bottled upgraded footwork. So triple strike turns into a bottled afterimage, a dash plus, well, not bottled, sorry, an innate afterimage, an upgraded afterimage, a dash plus, and a concentrate plus. These are all decent cards. Yeah, I'm fairly happy with that. That's a definite improvement to the deck. Concentrate will, I think, semi-regularly get played in order to let us play 2-cost stuff in our hand. Afterimage is going to go down on turn 1 almost always, and means that even though we only have 3 energy, we're actually able to create a lot of block. I think the one thing that the deck is missing right now is some form of damage which doesn't cost a lot of energy for longer fights. Like we have the double backstab and the stuff like Glass Knife for shorter fights where you don't have to deal that much damage. But for in a fight where we have to deal 200 damage, we're gonna start to notice that we only have 3 energy and that we don't have something like a Noxious Fumes, or even like a power like 1,000 Cuts. Something like that could get us there. So that's the thing that I'm missing right now, and would love to have one of. And that's Act 1. I'm gonna shut this down. This has been a much lengthier daily chat. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I feel like it would be just awful for me to not finish this run now, because I think people will get really interested in it, and then like for me to leave it here would be terrible. So I will definitely record Act 2, and hopefully we'll make it to Act 3, and we can record Act 3 as well, see if we can get an interesting silent Ascension 15 when done with only 3 energy and a random boss relic. Hope you guys have enjoyed. I have links to my Discord and my Twitch chat and stuff like this below the video. If you're really loving these videos and want to support, I also have a link to my Patreon, which is where you can support my YouTube content specifically. If you like my content and don't want to like sub to me on Twitch or donate to me on Twitch because you don't watch my Twitch, you watch my YouTube, so why would you do that? Patreon is the place to be there. Let me know what you think of this run in comments. I'd love to hear it. I hope those of you who want to watch my runs at work but can't watch them on Twitch because it's blocked at work, wink, wink, wink. I hope I hope this tickled that itch. And I'll see you guys tomorrow with another daily Spire side chat. Bye-bye, guys.